The Knicks fall in overtime, 138 to 135. Knicks had a huge lead in this one. They blow it. The game goes to overtime on a insane shot by Tyrese Haliburton. Just insane shot that the Knicks are probably lucky it was a 2 and not a 3. They fall in this one. The Knicks had looked good for most of this game. They do not get the win. They had a strong game from Jalen Brunson in this one with 43 points.
He and Cat combined for 78.
And they lost the game, which is going to really bother the Knicks and their fans. They got some decent production off the bench, 17 points off the bench. But we're going to talk a lot about this in this disappointing loss for the Knicks in game 1 of this Eastern Conference Final Series. And joining us as he does for most of these playoff games is the great Bryan Lewis of the New York Post Sports, joining us right now. Bryan, how are you doing, sir? Please tell me you're doing better than the Knicks and anybody that watched that game at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I'm doing better than the Knicks. How you guys, man?
We're good. We're doing okay. I feel like I can't believe what I just saw.
I can't believe what I just saw.
I thought of the same thing, Bryan. I thought of the same thing.
Bryan, I'll start with this, right? Because, and I was saying this to Bryan here and our friend Mill, who's here as well, too.
Hey, Mill.
Anytime you see these comebacks, Bryan, it's never about one thing. It's never, you can look at this and say Aaron Nesmith hit shots and went crazy. Haliburton hits that shot. But what do you think put the Knicks in the position where they're up double digits with 2:38 to go? Everything looks like it's going to be a wrap. And then I'm not going to put my hands on my neck, but they choked this lead away. What went wrong for the Knickerbockers in this game?
I mean, well, a number of things. Yes, as you point out, listen, win by the huge comeback, lose by the huge comeback. Turnabout is fair play. That is what they did against Boston. Listen, they're not built, for one, not to be winning on the offensive glass. That is something that they expect to do every night. But I don't know if they ended up getting beat or ended up tying on the offensive glass.
13-11, they had the advantage at that.
Okay. But, I mean, this is a team that was last in second chance points all year and last in second chance points in the playoffs, right? I'm saying the Pacers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sometimes it's not necessarily about the advantage that you have, the disadvantage that you have, but when you have a huge advantage, you have to take it. You have to end up making that pay off for you. They did not. Secondly, I hated the pace. I'm sure it was entertaining to watch if you're a fan with no skin in the game. But I hated the pace from the Knicks' perspective. Listen, you guys are probably a little young to be remembering Julio Cesar Chavez, but think Mayweather, think Miguel Cotto. This is a team that fight. The Pacers are basically a team that wants to win on body blows and wear you out. They're playing in the first quarter to wear you out for the fourth quarter. They're playing tonight to wear them down for game 7, right? I hated the fact that the Knicks were playing this entire game at their pace. Now, I thought, okay, the Knicks can get away with it and win game 1 because I thought they very much had to win game 1. Mm-hmm. But I figured that's going to end up paying dividends for the Pacers in game 6 and 7. Turns out I was wrong. They didn't even get today. They didn't even get games. But the pace disturbed me even from the beginning of the game. And I do think that ended up rearing its head by the end of the game, by the end of regulation and in the fourth quarter, by the end of regulation and then in overtime.
But let me ask you this, Bryan, to follow on that, because you talked about this with us before the series when we talked on Friday night. How much of that, too, is the fact of you were concerned a lot about the depth of the Pacers, the fact that they can go 10 deep. We saw them play 10 players today. Tibbs did go 8 deep. We saw some campaign which I liked.
If you were going to ask me what did I like, I like the fact that Tibbs – I mean, listen, Tibbs is a good coach. He knows. He sees this. he realizes that there is no way I'm going. Now, granted, you could sit there and be greedy and say, well, I'm going to win in 5, but there's no way that they can win in 7 games not using that bench. And frankly, when he went to the bench, in the second quarter, he stole minutes. He stole minutes with Cat off the floor, stole minutes with Brunson off the floor. I don't know what Deuce finished. I mean, when I looked, he was like plus 21. I don't know what he finished at.
12.
He finished at plus 12?
Yeah.
And how many minutes?
25.
You would have signed for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think you would have signed for the entire bench performance today, which
yes.
Mill, our friend here, had said let's give her credit. She said with 2:38 left in the game, when Brunson hit that 3, she said, "Hey, this is not over yet."
Yes,
she was right. But
they started spiraling.
She also.
Am I the reason?
No.
She put the X. You put the X.
No. She not put the X. No. But what she also did is she said, "Hey, Dex, well, what if they got this good production off the bench here today? They got 17 points off the bench, which is we have not seen a lot of playoff games where the Knicks have got 17 points off the bench and 6 coming from Campaign.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Campaign had good minutes. Let's give Campaign.
Well, it's a game
credit.
1. Campaign shows up in game 1s, right?
Yep.
This is true.
Very true.
Is it more disappointing, Bryan, that they didn't win a game where you have your stars combined for 70 or 78 points and
78,
and you got good production off the bench, and you lose this game in which this team that plays 10 deep looks like they just had more than you at the end? Is that very disappointing? The other thing I'd like to ask you, that is one part, and then also, how much of this in the Knicks losing this game, maybe about what you talked about before, but they didn't hit their free throws. They missed 12 in this game, and they had 15 turnovers. They didn't take care of the ball as well, too. How much of it does it come down to those little things?
It very much comes down to those little things. And, we discussed it. Listen, you have to hit free throws against this. First, you have to get to the line just to keep them from running.
But they did. They got there 40 times.
Then when you get there, though, you can't just give the points away. You have to hit those free throws. So, yes, that's a factor. I'm very disturbed that they lost this. This was, listen, I picked Indiana in 7, right? But I figured this was a game that the Knicks would win.
Mm-hmm.
I figured Indiana would get stronger as the series went on. I presumed incorrectly that the Knicks would, especially with the rest that they got. It's not like this started on Monday. It's not like it started on Tuesday. They were fresh. Yep. So this was a game. Listen, you're never going to say in the bag because that's disrespectful. But I figured this was one that they not only had to win, but one that they would win. So yes, if you ask me, am I disturbed at throwing this one away? Absolutely. However it happened. Now to do it up 14 with 2:40 left, that's just salt in the wound, right? But yes, I'm very disturbed that you lose this game. However it happened.
So I do have one more quote take for Bryan.
Yeah.
You just talked about how they lost the game up 14, 2:38 to go, whatever. You and I are both old enough here to remember this because we saw this.
Right.
What's the worst game 1 loss to the Pacers? This or game 1 in 95 against the Pacers with the 8 points in 9 seconds? What's worse?
That's worse.
I agree.
Listen, we've seen games where we've seen the Knicks come from behind, down 20. Mm-hmm. We've seen them now lose up 14, 2.5 left. That mess that we saw, that never happens. I never saw that before or since.
That's fair. That's fair, Bryan. And I don't know if it's
historic foolishness that you're bringing up there.
This is true. I don't know if it's colored by the fact we also know how that series ended for the Knicks. It did not end well.
Yeah, it was a tone setter for sure.
But I think you're right that it was more ridiculous in what happened. Go ahead, Bryan.
Bryan, let me toss this at you. So we mentioned Towns and Brunson combined for 78 points. That's one thing. Mm-hmm. The Knicks win the rebounding battle 46-39, just in general. And I think that's something that you can count on for the rest of the series, but I just wanted to throw that out to you. You get what became a strong offensive showing after a slow start for OG Anunoby, and also a strong offensive showing for Mikal Bridges in totality, even though kind of faded away at the end. But like, you got those things and you got the good bench production. But which of these are going to be harder to replicate, you think, for game 2? Because it feels like on the surface with all those things, they had the formula to win this game. Aaron Nesmith goes crazy, and the Knicks sort of just break down in the final couple minutes of regulation and overtime. So of everything they got, what's going to be the hardest to replicate, you think, in game 2?
You're saying between the 70 some odd,
the combined points from your two stars, the supporting cast being productive, and also just the rebounding advantage.
Listen, they should out-rebound this team.
I think so
on the reg. They frankly should. I mean, I don't want to say take it as a given. You have to go out and earn those rebounds. But that's the way this team is built. So I expect them to out-rebound. I do not expect those guys to go out and score 78 points. They're clearly capable of doing that, but that's asking a lot. The rebounding I expect, and I think at this point Tibbs frankly realizes I can't just play 7. Right?
He can't.
And these guys are good. Listen, Mitch is a good player. Deuce is a decent player. If you give them opportunities, I think those guys can produce. Will it necessarily match exactly tonight's production? Probably not. But I do expect that they will get opportunities because he'll have no choice but to give them opportunities. And they can produce. I think asking 78 points, that might be a bit much. But they were both great offensively. Now Jalen, listen, let's be honest. I mean, they were elephant hunting all night. They were picking out Jalen every single play, which again, that's what you should do. Until he proves that he can stand up against those, you should do that. Do I expect him to score 43? No. But he's so good and he's so clutch. And you also have to remember there's extra minutes in this game. Do I expect him to probably score 30 some odd he'll go through this series and average 30. The question is, can he at least put up some resistance on the other end? Some, just a little.
So minutes wise, not to get all minutes policey here, but this is something that we have to monitor because the Knicks went 8 deep to their credit, to Tibbs' credit, and he did play campaign like a legitimate 10 minutes. The Pacers were 9 deep, and then Ben Shepherd was getting fourth quarter minutes, just closing minutes out of nowhere. If you look at the starting 5, everyone was 38 minutes plus, and you had Mikal Bridges gets to 46, OG to 42, Josh Hart to 44. For the Pacers, you had 3 guys at 38 plus. Siakam gets 42, Haliburton 42, Nesmith 38, Turner in the low 30s, Nembhard 35. And obviously their bench was distributed pretty evenly in the teens and one guy in the 20s. So moving forward now, you have a series, obviously, where the games are every other night. Are you more concerned now that they didn't get this one, that moving forward, it's like, oh, they're going to have to continue to overcompensate their lack of depth? And now you're in a window where you have to win 4 out of 6 to get this series because you blew this one.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. I mean, the seeds for any Knick fourth quarter fatigue in games 6 and 7 are planted in the way this team is going to run and play and press them in games 1, 2, and 3. That's the way the Pacers are going to try to win.
That's what they do. Yeah.
That's what Cleveland had to deal with and could not. That is what the Knicks are now going to have to try to deal with. And you know it's coming, right? Your scouts, they do all the work. They come back. They tell you this is what's coming. They show you the cut-ups. It's different when you're having to play it and deal with it for 48 minutes or 53 minutes. It's an entirely different thing. So, yes, to answer your question briefly, it's concerning.
Very concerning. Mel, you got any questions for Bryan?
Those last 2 minutes and 30 seconds. How do you stop light up shooting like that? How do you slow down the game and just stop that? Because, Dexter pointed out that it's a lot of the little things that went into this loss, the free throws, the turnovers. But a big part of it was their shooting at the end, making those threes that brought them back in this game. How exactly were they supposed to defend that, supposed to stop that? I mean, Naismith came out of nowhere and just started lighting it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, in some cases, yes, it is a make or miss league, right? So you just have to be in the right spots and contest. And to be fair, in several of those opportunities, they were in the right spots. Now, what I tell you though is not just necessarily in those 239, but when you have an inbound. Now I'm talking overtime. When you have an inbounds, and you know where they're inbounding, and you don't defend the inbound at all.
That's another thing.
Yep, good point, Bryan.
Yeah.
Like that's correctable. And that's something that's not acceptable. I get it. Naismith, in some of those opportunities, there's even a hand in his face. He makes it fine. You have to tip your cap and say, all right, good shot. Good on you. But, some of the plays that we saw down the stretch in overtime, that's inexcusable. That's, I think, probably what I don't want to speak for Tibbs, but I think that's maybe where you're a little bit more perturbed and somebody might get cussed in film room. And I like Mitch, but that wasn't a good look.
Tibbs, I did see a comment. Tibbs did say on that play they were supposed to foul, which made sense. They should have fouled. How they didn't foul, I can't explain it. That's what I didn't. The reaction we probably cut. Our producers probably cut up the clip. None of us could understand what
their execution just down the stretch was just bad. Like it started in that run in the fourth quarter that the Pacers went on, because the Pacers went on that run because in part the Knicks weren't executed. But then in overtime, Mills said it when we were live, like they looked a step slow the entire time in overtime. The Knicks did.
Agreed.
Let me ask you. Go ahead, Bryan.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Dutch.
No, I was going to say, because I think there's a couple ways you can look at this game, right? Of course, there's going to be the Knicks choke this away, and I don't think you can hide from that. You can run from the smoke on this. They choked, and maybe things looked bad once Haliburton put his hands around his neck, and it was a game one, and none of it felt good, and
almost
all that,
a three,
all that stuff, right? There's a way they could have lost this in regulation. The other side of looking at this is there are things that we can clean up. We were up 14 with 2:38 to go in a game one in our building. We proved for 46 minutes we were the better team, but it's not a 46-minute game. It was 45 minutes and 30 seconds. We're the better team. What do you think the adjustments the Knicks have to make in game two to even this series at one?
Well, I mean, they're going to have to find ways to give Brunson a little bit more help defensively. Because, again, there were gaping problems when they were hunting on him in pick and roll situations. I mean, I can't quibble with too much of what they did in the first half. But their ball security in the second half. Now I'd have to look and see what the turnovers were first half versus second half. See what did
I think it was 6-9. I think 6 in the first half, 9 in the second half.
It ended up being 15-7 Knicks, which is not a category you want to lead in, obviously, especially against this team.
But ball security absolutely was an issue. No doubt about it.
Pacers only had 7 turnovers the entire game, which is crazy. Wow. And Brunson, by the way, by himself had 7 turnovers.
The Pacers had. Well, I mean, but again, this is what I'm saying. The Pacers threw by and large. I mean, there may have been, and I'm not talking switches, but I mean, primary 3 different defenders. I mean, you have Naismith and Nembhard, and then TJ on him. There may have even been, and I'm not even talking on switches. They're going to run bodies at him. and they're going to eventually wear him down. And he is going to turn the ball over. If you're asking him to do that much heavy lifting, unfortunately, it's going to happen. But yeah, so second half, the Pacers had 1 turnover. The Knicks had 6.
There you go.
Jesus. And to your point, they tried Mathurin for a couple possessions. They tried Siakam for a brief period in terms of guarding Brunson.
Yeah.
Like they're going to try. I said this. They're going to try to throw length on him. It's not going to be T.J. McConnell for the majority of the time.
I thought Siakam would be on it more than he was.
Yeah, well, he crossed Siakam and scored on him, and then Rick Carlisle was like, all right, no more of that.
No, I get it, but that's fine. You can go back.
But he may go back to it. He may go back to it.
All different looks. They're going to throw him this look,
looks.
that look, this look, and just throw bodies at him.
But that's why it's important for the Knicks to move the ball, because if you're going to isolate Brunson a lot and they're going to wear him down and be physical with him, which you know they're going to do,
which
they will be, and they're going to go as far as they're allowed to go, then, you need ball movement and you need your role players to step up. And you got that today and still lost.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's it. And look, I've seen this in the chat already, and I knew this was going to come. This was so predictable. You should know this too, Brian. Tibbs got out-coached. The Knicks did not lose this game because of coaching. I think it's a bit ridiculous to say that. Players have agency. Players have to execute. We just talked about the players not fouling when it's supposed to. We talked about the turnovers. Tibbs can't do that. Tibbs can't take care of the ball, right? Tibbs not out here shooting free throws. Tibbs didn't miss 12 free throws. Tibbs didn't turn over the ball 15 times. The notion that Tibbs got out-coached here and to not look at the little things that lost the Knicks the game is ridiculous. It's absolutely, positively ridiculous. Did Tibbs make adjustments? Sure. But I don't think Tibbs was the reason they lost the game.
I would not say Tibbs is the reason they lost. I would not agree with that. I think from talking to me that I have the utmost respect for Carlisle. I think he's a great coach.
Yeah. You said, to be clear, just for folks who didn't watch this, Bryan said before this series, he thought the Pacers had the advantage in coaching, and he thought Carlisle was a better coach. And then you said that Tibbs was a bad coach. You just said you thought Carlisle was a better coach.
I think Tibbs is a good coach. I want to be clear.
We all do.
I want to be very clear. I think Tibbs is a good coach, maybe a very good coach. I think Carlisle's a great coach. I think
that's fair.
I think he's great. So no, I mean, I guess people are going to quibble and say, "Oh, you should have held your challenge later." I guess maybe that would have been useful, but I'm not going to say
that's still not 12 missed free throws and 15 turnovers.
But that's not the reason you lost,
right? Which is my point.
If you're going to have turnovers, particularly live ball turnovers, well, forget it. You can't defend a live ball turnover anyway. That's a dunk, or Obi missed a dunk, but whatever.
That's true.
I mean, you can't defend with a live ball turnover. But I mean, if you're going to turn the ball over, this team's going to run. This team's going to run on misses, much less turnovers. You will have to get back against this team. It just is what it is. Guys are going to have to run, and they're going to have to get back. Guys are going to have to take care of the ball.
Right.
You can't run out on the court and take care of the ball for you.
Right. That's not coaching. That's my point. It's not. It's a lazy argument to say the Knicks lost the game. That coaching. Oh, what adjustments did he make in the last two minutes and 30 seconds? The players didn't execute in the last 2 minutes and 38 seconds.
Correct.
That is it. It is nothing more. It is nothing less than that. Because had they gone and coasted to a win and won by 10 or 12 or whatever it been, then you'd been like, oh, Tibbs is the best coach. But because the players didn't execute in the last 2 minutes and 38 seconds, now we're putting this on Tibbs. I just think the notion of that is ridiculous. And if you're going to ignore 15 turnovers, if you're going to ignore 12 missed free throws, anybody who says that, I'm like, you're not watching the game. You're not watching basketball. You're not understanding. As I said, when leads are blown, you can't have it one way, like you said, Brian. You can't have comebacks from 20 when it's the Knicks, and they do all the little things right to win. And then when they don't do it and they lose, then you just put it on the coach. Absolutely ridiculous. But I just don't think it is. Now, you said, and last thing we'll wrap is, you said that one of the adjustments you said is they have to get Brunson more help defensively. What would you like to see them do in terms of that? Is it the scheme, right? Is it maybe going more to this? Because they played a lot more drop in this game than they did we saw against Boston. Is it going back to the switch everything scheme that we saw against Boston? Is it something else? What do you say in terms of how they adjust and get Brunson some help on defense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with them. I mean, I get why you would go to drop, but here's the thing, man. With drop, I mean, Haliburton's going to make the right play when you're in the drop. He just is.
Mhm.
Yep, he's such a
He
good passer.
just flat will. You waiting for him to mess up, he's not going to help you out with that. So, yeah, I would like to allow a little more switching and see if it can work. I don't consider that like a panic move. I consider that the nature of the playoffs. I'm going to try something. Game 1. Then I'm going to come back in game 2 and I'm going to make an adjustment and try something else. You're going to adjust to my adjustment. That's just the way the playoffs are.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Right.
yeah.
That's just the postseason.
The only thing I would say to that, Brian, is the Cavs tried that and they got killed on switches by the Pacers in the last series.
They did.
So maybe the Knicks, at least on the wings defensively, have better personnel equipped for it, is what you would hope. But I think the Pacers, like, they won't be made uncomfortable, I don't think, in terms of their offensive process if they're hit with, the Knicks switching everything on a consistent basis.
I think the Knicks, now I could be proven wrong. I think the Knicks wing defenders are better.
Yeah, I agree.
Now I could be proven wrong.
No, you're right, because DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus are not OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges defensive.
Right.
But it's also like Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, like that's part of it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
The Cavs.
I'm not saying that I think the Knicks defense is better at the point of attack. I'm not saying that Brunson's a better defender. I'm saying they're wing defenders.
The wings, yeah. The thing that Cleveland had that was to their, and it didn't even work. But the thing they had to their advantage was they had the double bigs, and they had 2 bigs that are good defensively. Whereas with Towns, I mean, you want him in every action possible if you're the Pacers from an offensive standpoint. So
yes,
we'll see.
We'll see what they do. It's going to be a long couple of days for the Knicks fans. They can't wait for game 2. We'll see if they can make some adjustments. Bryan, we appreciate you joining us as always for the post game. And some people are going to say, you're defending Tom Thibodeau. They're going to say doing things. One thing you can't say, Bryan, I can't even get you to say this. You can't say Knicks in 4. We can't say that anymore. I tried to get you to say Knicks in 4 the other day.
I just don't want the Knicks to go. Knicks will not go down in 4.
I don't see that happening. Do you think the Knicks win game 2?
Yes, I do.
There you go. All right.
I do.
They're
Listen, but then again, I thought they were going to win this game. I felt confident. I felt confident they were going to win tonight. I did not feel confident they were going to win the series, but I felt confident that they were going to win tonight. And frankly, I thought they might win both of these games here.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought they'd win the first 2 here. They did not, but it's simple. They did not execute. It's really not that deep, man. They didn't execute. But we'll see. Bryan, we'll see you after game 2 on Friday night.
All right, man.
All right, thank you. That is the great Bryan Lewis, sports reporter here for the New York Post, joining us as always on the post game.
We don't need that anymore.
Mel, are you still salty? Has the vibes come down? It's a rough night for the Knicks fans. I get it.
Like I told you before, my confidence level is a little bit low, but we have to make the proper adjustments. And I hopefully don't see us having another game where we miss 12 free throws. Yeah,
you got to. Look, I knew it was coming with the fans. I knew it was coming.
To be fair, what I'll say is this. I don't think Tibbs lost in the game, but I thought Rick Carlisle made some really good decisions down the stretch, which that helped out become the difference. Like, I was like, all right, where's Miles Turner? Where's Andrew Nembhard? Didn't go to them. He rode with a lineup that was ultimately getting them that lead at the end, or got them to tie the game at the end. Not the lead, almost got them the lead. Stuck with Ben Shepherd, who didn't play before this. Stuck with him. Stuck with Aaron Nesmith, was just going nuts on top of that. And then 2 masterful challenges. In terms of little
masterful,
in terms of little but he saved it for I'm talking about more so because of the timing.
Okay.
Saving it for the perfect times. This is why We would have.
We all I'm saying we all ripped the Tibbs challenge. We did not like the challenge. We said it in the moment.
No, but if we're
it.
talking about little things that add up, and again, I don't think Tibbs lost them the game.
No, I think the notion of that is ridiculous.
But we all are in agreement. I think that Carlisle is a better coach. I think Carlisle in the NBA right now is probably top 2.
I agree with all that. I agree with all that. I don't think Tibbs. I think the notion that Tibbs lost in the game or got out coached is absolutely ridiculous. Because if you got out coached, you can't just sit here and say the first 46 minutes and 22 seconds didn't matter and he didn't coach good to get him to, and then all of a sudden the last 238 didn't happen. Like that to me tells me you don't watch basketball. That is not how basketball works. That doesn't happen because you're not bringing anything on the players. You're not bringing up the missed free throws. You're not bringing up the fact that they had all the turnovers.
I think those things,
and you just run into the coach.
I think those things lost them the game first and foremost.
Yeah.
Like the turnover,
Easily.
because you give up the lead.
Yeah.
You do that by turning the ball over, and we said it. Like Jalen Brunson makes that 3, and then it's like, all right, you have this big lead. Why is Jalen Brunson isolating 2 or 3 straight possessions, which got their offense out of rhythm? Not Jalen Brunson's fault, but like that's just what they did offensively. Like nobody else was moving without the ball. None of these things. And then the Pacers are going back on the floor, and it's like, Aaron Nesmith, where is he? Here, make this 3. And then the Pacers just got into that zone. Like they were controlling the pace at the end of the game where they would run up and down the floor.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, the Knicks are caught slipping on this end or they didn't make a shot. We're running. That's what every single time. And then in overtime, it felt like the Knicks, like they never had their rhythm at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And that they lost their rhythm. They being the players. There's no timeout that was going to just automatically change that.
Mhm.
It doesn't work that way. What I understand is we have to understand because we watched this whole playoffs. There's a lot of people out there, we talked about this earlier, who wanted Tibbs gone. They don't like Tibbs. So anything that goes wrong with the Knicks, they're going to blame it on Tibbs.
Why is Size 9 mad at us?
Well, they're mad because there's one. Who's the guy in here? I think it was John who said,
where was the who was
it's
screaming?
typical. It's typical that the media is defending Tibbs. Nobody in the media, people in the media, we've criticized Tibbs for stuff, right? People criticize Tibbs. The fact that we're
for all season
defending
for minutes for the
defending
lack of a
Tibbs,
rotation.
Yeah, I've been critical of that. I've been critical of that. So to sit here,
these are selective arguments that don't directly
right.
apply
But if
to
you're
this
going to sit here and say that they were out coached in this game, and that's why they lost the game, yes, I'm going to call you out and say you don't know basketball because you didn't even bring up the things that matter to win a basketball game: free throws, taking care of the ball, and all you want to do is because I get it. Just say you don't like Tibbs. I'd rather you just type in the chat, I am a Tom Thibodeau hater, and I can't reasonably be objective. Just say it. It's cool. But I'm here. Thibodeau's to be criticized. I've had things to criticize Tibbs about.
Yeah,
but
he also just led a team that beat the Celtics.
And all of a sudden he doesn't know how to coach.
Before the series,
that's ridiculous.
Before the series, the conversations we were having if they don't look competitive against the Celtics, he can get fired.
Which I was personally
and
saying
they won the series, and it's like not that it's house money.
But you know what happened? 5 days have passed since that series, and all of a sudden Tom Thibodeau forgot how to coach. Or maybe some people out there I think Rick Carlisle's a better coach than Tom Thibodeau.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean I'm saying Tom Thibodeau's a bad coach. I think Rick Carlisle's a better coach. I think Rick Carlisle stuck with his players. Hey, you know when Tom Thibodeau stuck with his players when they were bench players? Game 4 against the Celtics when he did that. Also, it's points in game 6. Sometimes you're going to push buttons and they work. Sometimes they don't work, right?
Yeah.
But this is on the players. And I guarantee you, I haven't watched all the post-game comments. I guarantee you, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, the players in there are saying, this is on us. They're not going to be pointing the finger at Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah.
They know it's their job to go out.
But
they could.
No,
but, I mean, that'd be stupid. They know it's their job to go execute.
But ultimately they fell flat. Like, Mill, you saw it. Like, they fell flat in the end. Mikal kind of disappears at different points.
That's something you especially notice is that, OG started to get hot a little bit, and then it was just gone. And then Bridges wasn't really a factor at all. And that's in that fourth quarter. You guys said he had a great start.
Yeah, he did.
What happened? You can't just disappear.
Yeah.
I know they want to run ISO ball with Brunson, and we like that a lot because he's Mr. Clutch. He's the clutch player of the year. But again, it's important to keep players like Bridges and OG involved for situations where they need to make shots down the stretch. But they're not, because that's just not the offense that's being run at the end there. It's Brunson all the way. But I would like to see them also getting involved down the stretch there.
I would like to see that because we've seen that throughout the playoffs and some of the wins that we saw from Knicks. We saw the guys get involved.
We've seen OG hit some clutch shots.
Absolutely. Now, I think
And
that,
Bridges, yeah,
to that
both of
point,
them.
though, sometimes I think there's this notion that, and I always say this, and I'm not trying to be demeaning to anybody. This is not NBA 2K, guys. This isn't you controlling and get to run and play. Players have to read. They have to react to things. They're given instructions from coaches, but they are not robots. They have agency. Look, all the Knicks, I guarantee they all have talked. I've been in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
They've all talked all season long. We got to move the ball. We got to do things in these
And
late
they
game
stop
situations.
moving the ball, and then what happens?
Sometimes they stop moving the ball. Is that coaching? No, that's not coaching.
But I think we're talking too much about like the coaching aspect of it. Bottom line was,
I agree. It's
yeah,
they didn't execute. They didn't execute.
Yeah,
They didn't execute in the last 2-3 minutes of the game. They were out of rhythm. The players know how to win games. You know how? Because we've seen them be in rhythm and come back.
Yeah.
We've seen them
Yeah.
do it. The players dropped the ball today. They didn't do it. They didn't do the little things to win a basketball games, and they ended up losing in overtime.
Yeah, I didn't have a big issue with their rotations. I mean, Aaron Nesmith just went crazy like toward the end, and the Knicks were struggling to defend him, like regardless of who was out there. You know what I mean? Like, the Pacers outplayed you down the stretch at the most important times. You damn near lost in regulation because Tyrese Haliburton's foot was on the line. Right. They had a chance again in overtime to win this game, and they didn't.
They did have a chance.
I like bringing up. I love you bringing up that point. They had a chance to do it, and they didn't do it. Now look, they got jerked on the goaltending call. We talked about that.
Didn't end up mattering that much.
Honestly, no. But they didn't execute things like Bryan mentioned, not fouling there. And listen, a lot was put on JB. They're throwing a lot of defenders. We'll see if the Knicks can make adjustments here in game 2. This is what the playoffs are about. I'm with Bryan on this. This is what the playoffs are about. You have to make adjustments.
And the main thing for me is just the depth, because again, the longer this goes, this will benefit the team with more depth.
I agree.
I agree. This is why it was very important for the Knicks to win this first game in particular, especially because I'm going to look this up. I haven't been able to check it yet, but I don't get.
I will say I agree with John on his point there about not isolating. If the Knicks are up 14, that Mill you were saying about getting other balls involved. John, I do agree with you on that.
I agree.
And that's on players.
We can have civil disagreements.
Yeah, it's not. And John, everybody out there, I'm not saying, I may have a little harsh saying you don't know basketball. I apologize for that. But I know you guys are smart and very passionate and watch these games.
Not all. Most.
Most. I'm John. I'm sure you watch this game is very passionate. So I apologize if you thought saying you don't know basketball. But I think we have to always
I'm
look
sticking
at the
to Knicks
things.
and 6. I still like you.
That's fine. I love you. I love you too, John. I'm sticking with Knicks and 6 too. I'm with you. I'm not losing the faith. I think they can come back and back. Listen, there's a way in Mill. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yes, please.
There is a way, and I think sometimes we got to do this after these kind of losses. This is a gut-wrenching loss. I'm making no bones about this, guys. This is one of the ones that stabs you in the gut.
Yep.
You're feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel bad you got to take that final tomorrow.
It's okay.
That's right.
But there's a way in which sometimes losses like this, you could turn it into a strength. And I think how the Knicks bounce back from this is going to be very telling. What do you want to see in game 2?
I feel like they did a lot of things right this game. And it was up until that point, I hate to keep mentioning it, up until that, well, besides the missed free throws and the turnovers, but they started off this game really well. And I want to see them start off game 2 the same way. Making shots, get hot from 3. I mean, we don't see that team do that often, so I don't know if I can count on it.
Yeah.
But get guys involved early on. Like we said, it's important to have these guys involved because you can't always depend on Brunson to put up 40 plus. You can't depend on Cat and Brunson to combine for that much every game. We said it before, like we need to get Mikal, we need to get OG involved, even Josh. It's important to get them in rhythm as well so that they can hit shots down the stretch if they need to. And I want to see a good start as well. And then down the stretch, I want them to just, if they have a lead, don't make the same mistakes where you're turning over the ball. Have a secondary ball handler help you on that, Brunson, because there were 2 key turnovers he had. Was it overtime? I think it was either overtime or the fourth quarter, either one.
During that run, basically.
Yeah, 2 turnovers back to back where he just couldn't control the ball. And I feel like he needs help on that end where someone else needs to get that. But there was a lot of things I liked that I saw from this game, especially the bench production, which I'm hoping we get back again. You can't always count on it, but hey, give the bench some more run next game as well. Give Campaign some minutes, see what he can do. Deuce, you can count on him being that defensive menace. As in terms of offense, sometimes his shots not there. He was missing a lot towards the end. But Mitch, again, you can count on him to be out there to have that presence. So I really want to see that bench step up as well, because we're seeing the Pacers bench step up. So we need to match that. It's going to be a really important game, I would say, because you don't want to go down.
Oh no, it's a must win.
0-2.
I look at it as a must win.
Yeah, I agree. Again, you can't let the series linger for too long, because just because you get a game 7 on your home court, theoretically, it doesn't, like, the Pacers can obviously win anywhere. They've proven that. No, I want to ask you a question about like the rotation. So are you good with the minutes distribution that we talked about, or because you said you might want to see the bench a little bit more, but if they're not giving you the same production, if they're not replicating it, like what's the move? Do you try out Precious Achiuwa? Do you try out somebody else, or do you just play the starters more and treat it as like a game 7 because you have to win this game and just worry about game 3 when game 3 comes?
Right. Do you mind going down the rundown for the bench again?
Yeah. So for people watching, so Mikal Bridges played 46, and this is again including overtime. So this is out of 53 minutes, not out of 48 minutes. But Mikal Bridges played 46 minutes. He led the game. Josh Hart had 44. So typical that those two would lead the way. As we know, OG Anunoby 42. Karl-Anthony Towns just short of 40, had 39. Jalen Brunson 38. Now it's a different 39 and 38 because of overtime, but still, and also
foul trouble for Jalen Brunson too,
and Karl-Anthony Towns at 4 also. Now for the bench, we're not going to count DeLon Wright's 30-second cameo. Deuce McBride had 25 minutes. He was a plus 12. Mitchell Robinson 21, Campaign 10. Do you like that distribution there, or do you feel like they need to open this up even more? Do they need to play Precious Achiuwa as part of the rotation, or just keep it the way it is?
I also want to add, because I saw John in the chat said, I want to see the team make free throws. Yes, and I'd love to see Delon Wright over Campaign. I found that interesting because we talked about Delon Wright earlier in this. Is he somebody you like to see add in rotation? Precious Achiuwa. I just thought John mentioning that was really interesting. Since we talked about Delon Wright during this game, do you want to see the rotation? I go back to Brian's question, but Brian asked a good question. What do you want to see him do the rotation?
I feel like the distribution of bench minutes we got tonight, I was okay with that. I think we got a good amount from everyone. I mean, Campaign, we haven't seen a lot this playoffs at all. So, I mean, to see him get 10, that's even something. And the fact that he produced during those minutes, I think that's a good sign. Do you bump that up more? Maybe by like a minute or two, but
depends on how he's playing, right?
That too. It's all situational, you know. If Payne, or I mean, I don't know about Precious. I'm not sure of trying him out yet. You see, if it's a situation where none of the bench guys are producing, I don't think that Tibbs goes to Precious. I think he just puts back the starters in and he goes with them. It's not like Precious is, oh, hey, like we need something and he's our go-to. It's not going to be that way at all. It's going to be forcing the starters to create something. But I think I liked the bench minutes tonight. From what we saw, I think they could produce more. I think, what did Deuce shot tonight? I felt like he missed a lot.
2 for 7. I mean, that doesn't really capture like how effective he ultimately was.
I think he was really good on defense.
He was 4 for 5 from free throw, and he hit his free throws. He was 80%, but 2 also, yes, like defensively he was a live body and probably better than that, honestly.
I feel like we could be getting more from Deuce, honestly.
Sorry, I was laughing at this comment. That was up on the screen. As a Cavs fan, the Pacers are for sure using voodoo, but I'm also kind of rooting for them now. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
That's interesting.
That's strange.
I think if you're a Cavs fan, there's something to be said for like you want the team that beat your team to go all the way, even though they're in your same. The only thing I would ask is like you don't consider them a rival.
They're doing a division. I don't division.
Evan might not care about division.
Maybe he doesn't.
A lot of people
that.
don't.
A lot of people don't.
Just real quick on DeLon Wright. So because like that's an interesting comment John made because we talked about it. I really like DeLon Wright, and I think in a playoff setting. Like there's a world where if Campaign just doesn't have it, and you'll know right away if Campaign doesn't have it, then I think like DeLon Wright is interesting from a defensive standpoint. Like, can DeLon Wright come in and try to slow down the Indiana Pacers. Like, it sounds like a stupid discussion. I'm going to acknowledge it. Like, oh, we're talking about Delon Wright. But no, seriously, from an adjustment.
I don't think it's because
you'll probably get people like really Delon Wright. But I think from a defensive standpoint, like, again, I saw this dude when he was with the Atlanta Hawks shut down Tyler Hero in the playoff series, be effective at times, even last year against the Celtics when he was part of the Heat. After that, and obviously he had some years. I mean, this was early on in his career, but he was on the Raptors team. We talked about guys who won a ring. I don't think he was on that Raptors squad. I don't think he was on that Raptors squad. But he was in that iteration before when like DeMar DeRozan was still there. Like, he is in the league because he is a defender, and for a guard, he's long. Like, he has a good wingspan. But here's why I think he can work in spurts. Like, I think he's worth trying out on the backcourt.
The reason I don't think it's a stupid discussion, and the reason I think we brought up in the game, we're like, oh, we're talking about Delon Wright for 30 seconds. And the reason John brought it up, and John, you could comment in chat if this is what you're saying, because I don't think that this is wrong. Particularly against this team, in this matchup, in a team that's going 10 deep, right, guys? Maybe if you don't see campaign having it, like the way Bryan says, maybe it's like, all right, let's get Delon Wright for, I'm putting air quotes in, a change of pace, right? Because somebody to change something up against his team. Now, if you want to tell me you want to see these kind of adjustments from Tom Thibodeau, I hear you, and I'm with you on this. These are the kind of in-game adjustments where throwing somebody off for something second, maybe not in crunch time, but maybe it happens in the first half. Maybe it's in the third quarter. Maybe this is something that you can see to do that. I think particularly in this series, because of the depth that this team has, you might have to try to steal minutes from guys here and there if you can, and it could be valuable for this Knicks team. If somebody campaign doesn't have it and can give them a spark.
But this is why for role players, you have to look at this way. Like I said early on, or even before when we were previewing Knicks Celtics, which is why I didn't understand Size 9's comments about all the Mitchell Robinson praise. Because I was saying, like, look, this is not going to be a Mitchell Robinson series if the Celtics can hit their threes like the way that they have.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And they didn't. Right. You know what I mean? And they didn't. And it became a Mitchell Robinson series because he could stay on the floor ultimately, get the rebounds, and be a deterrent on defense. And you could live with what he gave you at the free throw line because they were doing so many other things well. Now you have to look at role players like, this is a series for you. This might not be a series for you. This is a series for you. This might not be a series for you. And with campaign, it's like you bring him in the game for offense. You want him ultimately to try to keep pace with the Pacers. No pun intended. Forgive me. I'm sorry. But with Delon Wright, you want him to muck up that pace. You want him to try to slow them down. So I think from a schematic standpoint, like, it just makes more sense unless campaign has it. Like to Mill's point, if campaign just has it, you ride with campaign until he doesn't. That's the campaign experience. And not to say Delon Wright's going to be like your defensive stopper, but he is in the league to defend. I think he'd be worth a look, especially when you need to expand your rotations against a team who has a lot of depth, which is going to be to their advantage this entire series.
No, I think it's fair points. That's why I like that John brought it up. John just made another comment. He said, I want to see Wright on the floor when McConnell's on the court to slow him down. Knicks had no answer for him. Now
McConnell's going to push.
Yeah, but I like what John is saying here because this is a change of pace sort of thing.
See, John knows basketball.
John, John, I apologize to you. You know some basketball. I don't agree with you that Tim's got out coach, but I do think he knows some basketball. John's got his thinking cap on. But I do, in all seriousness, I do agree with John here because maybe that's sort of the time he's talking about in a very specific situation. You agree or disagree?
I feel like it's hard to assess our bench because we haven't had a large sample size of seeing them in this playoff so far. I mean, we've seen Robinson. He's obviously been a very important part of that Celtics series and just everything else that he's brought. But Delon Wright, like we saw 30 seconds, and it's hard to know if he can make a bigger impact with those 30 seconds. I mean, obviously you've watched him before, earlier in his career, and
he's a good role player, backup guard.
I don't know if I can depend on that to say if he gets more minutes, he can actually change the pace and he can actually contribute and help. And, you know, I want to believe it. I want to, but, I would have maybe, I think you mentioned earlier, like maybe it's not a big, like, oh, he gets 10 minutes, but maybe it's just a few more minutes. Like we can see a little bit to see if it's making an impact.
Here's the other thing real quick. To your point. What's going to happen is because he's been struggling with his shooting this year and last year was better, he's out there to slow things down defensively and to ultimately like be there for defense. The problem you'll have on the other end is where Carlisle is going to be like, leave him open, okay? Make him make a shot. And Delon Wright is not a terrible shooter, but this season he's had a terrible year shooting the basketball. And for his career, he's 35% on limited volume. So he's not a shooter. Like, he can make some shots. He had a 17-point game in the playoffs last year when he was in the Heat's rotation against the Celtics. But he's not somebody who, like, I mean, it's kind of like a worse version of Josh Hart from a standpoint of like, hey, you're content with like them shooting if you're the Pacers.
Yeah,
so
and that's a problem.
Yeah, he, like, if he's going to get a 6 to 8 minute to 10 minute shift, you have to be able to make an open shot also. I think that's part of it. So it would be a defensive move, and I think it could work, but he has to make a shot.
I think John came in here and said he played well during the regular season when JB was out from injury. You referenced that before, and I think he did give some good minutes. Mill, I don't think that I take your point any less in that you're questioning, hey, can we count on him now in this time? Maybe that's a criticism you want to say of Tibbs, that he should have gone deeper early in the playoffs so you could have seen more of these guys to instill confidence in them to come in these situations. And that I agree with and understand. But I also will say this is now the Eastern Conference Finals. And sometimes if you see something against a team that's a little more depth, you have to try something, because I really do agree with Brian Lewis in that the depth could be an impact here on this team, and it can affect you later in the series more than it even does now. So can you steal some minutes? And maybe it's something as simple as what John said, which is like, hey, McConnell's a change of pace guy. He gives them spunk. He gives them fight. He's that little irritant that you can't stand with the ball.
Very good passer.
Very good passer. And he's got a good feel for the game.
High IQ.
So,
high IQ. Yep.
Yeah. And I will take another point that Brian just said. Does this happen if you look at campaign, you feel like the campaign experience is going a little crazy, which we've seen that happen sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, after he made a few threes, or how many did he?
He had 2 threes.
He hit 2, but then he chucked up a bunch more, and that kind of ended the campain experience.
That's and sometimes the campaign experience ends like that, and you take it. Right, and like, I don't know. I'm not coaching, and I don't have, as talented as these coaches are, have the feel all the time to be like, all right, when do I stop the campaign experience? When do I start the Delon Wright experience? But maybe if campaign is helping you, this is what it comes out. I always say this is basketball. Basketball is about winning possessions.
Yeah.
And either the players will help you win possessions on the offensive side or defensive side of the ball. Maybe Delon Wright helps you win some possessions on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe he gives you a little offense. I don't know. But do I think it's not worth trying in a game 2? I don't think it's that crazy.
Yeah.
Also, because even if you play a 9th person, maybe that just gives somebody else a little bit extra rest. Yeah. Or maybe it's giving Deuce some more minutes, which I saw somebody else say. It might have been John. Somebody else said that in the chat. Maybe he's giving Deuce some more minutes, who I thought played reasonably well. Deuce has played good since the end of the Pistons series.
Yeah, and the pressure, that's the thing. The pressure is on the Knicks to not be in foul trouble, because you don't want to be forced. You want to do these things before you're forced to do it. That's the other part of it.
That is a good point.
Real quick, Tyrese Haliburton, this is a quote from the choke sign celebration, because he was asked about it, of course, in the press conference or post-game media availability. If I would have known it was a 2, he says, I wouldn't have done it. I might have wasted it. If I do it again, people might say I'm aura farming. That is some new school ass shit. Like, aura farming?
Are these players locked in? Like, we got players talking about aura farming in the locker room. What is going on?
I mean, look, let me put it like this. I don't want to kill him, because he clearly had been waiting to use that. Okay,
and he won and had 30.
He brought out the he brought out the shirt last year in Game 7. Now look,
after the game.
Now look, after the Game 7, which I thought was corny. You wear it before the game and you wear it after. That's a different thing. You wore it after the game. I thought it was lame.
I also want to put out there on record, I think Tyrese Haliburton is a great player.
Oh, I think Tyrese Haliburton is a great player.
Yeah, I don't want.
But if you're a Knicks fan and you don't like him, and you don't like him, especially today,
a lot of people don't.
Oh, I'm with you. Like, now, here's the thing: fans got to be on top of this guy every time he has the ball, and the Knicks gotta
doesn't bother him.
The Knicks got to no, because. But this is what you want out of these NBA villains. You want this, but the Knicks
to lean into the.
I like it. It's great for the sport. I love it. It's great for the sport.
Listen, Tyrese Haliburton, shout out to our producer Nico, is a wrestling fan. So he's going to lean into, as is Jalen Brunson. Listen, they had the confrontation on SmackDown. You know, I had to bring this up today at some point. Tyrese Haliburton leans into he understands what being a heel is.
Okay, here's the thing: if you're a heel and you lean into that, it's cool. But sometimes you got to beat the heel's ass.
No, it's true.
And
Heels don't
the
always
Knicks
win.
the Knicks have to come back and not like the sight of his face on Friday night and respond. That's
Let
it for
that
me.
fuel them. Let
It fuel them. Sometimes things like
Yeah.
this can
The
spark them.
same way that they saw Trae Young roll some fake dice on their court.
Which didn't bother me as much as it bothered some other
Yeah.
people. But yeah.
Yeah.
I actually be more bothered by this than I would Trae Young rolling the
Oh,
dice.
yeah.
One, because the stakes in the game.
The thing is also he did it and still won in overtime. They
See,
didn't make
now
him pay for it.
I said this before all the time.
Mm.
It would have been funny if he did it and lost. Now, if he did it and he lost, nobody will remember the choke sign. No,
Oh yeah, they would. The streets would remember.
Oh no,
Twitter would
they remember like that, but it wouldn't be as iconic. The reason the reason the Reggie Miller 8 points in 9 seconds and the choke sign is iconic. Another part of it is they went on to win the series. They won the game and then they went on to win the series.
Yeah.
If the Knicks come back
and
win
had a
the series,
3-1 lead in that series too.
Yeah, the Knicks. Granted, the Knicks had 2 very clutch games in that series, games 5 and game 6. Big game for Patrick Ewing with a game winner. John Starks was huge in game 6.
And in game 7, they lost by just 2
points, and they should have won a Patrick Ewing finger roll, which I cried after that game, but that we'll not talk about that. Yeah. The Knicks, if they win the series, nobody's going to remember that play. If I was the Knicks, I want to make it irrelevant. They win the series, nobody's going to remember the play.
They'll remember from the standpoint of dunking on him, basically.
What'd you say?
They'll remember if the Knicks win this series.
Oh,
they'll remember from the standpoint of haha, you did the choke sign.
Knicks fans are going to have the Photoshop, not even the Photoshop, they're going to have the screenshots ready. If the Knicks win the series, they're just going to have them doing this. They're going to have the screenshots ready. It's going to be out there ready, and
they'll do it back to him if they win the series.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You'll see them
that'll be great.
Streets when they're doing their
Mel will do it in the video.
Little
yeah. You might have to.
I'm plotting.
But they have to win in order for that to happen. So we'll see. We got a long way to go. Because a lot of people, including us, think this and have thought this would go 6-7. Did you have a prediction before this?
Yeah, we didn't ask you that.
I was thinking Knicks in 5, but
Ooh, I like it. So you said Knicks gonna win 4 straight.
I respect greatly that you even admitted that after this.
Yeah.
Because now they would have to win 4 straight.
Yeah.
You know?
So I mean, they're a good road team. They're a good road team. Okay, you win next home game. You go on the road and
take back home court advantage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
Of course, it's not impossible.
The chances are definitely lower now, but
I respect that you admitted that.
I'll take anything as long as it leads to the finals. Okay, Knicks in 5, Knicks in 6, I don't want Knicks in 7, but
you'll take it if they win.
I'll take it if it needs to get to that.
So to wrap up with John. John had a couple other comments that I think are worth getting to. We need to get OG going early. He says in game 2 when OG scores more than 20 points, Knicks
that's very true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those corner threes, they need to generate that for him. We know JB and Cat can score against the Pacers. Both are true. By the way, I've been watching since the Knicks since the Mason Oakley Ewing days, and a delusional Giants fan who thinks the Giants are going back to the playoffs.
Wait, John. This year, you think the Giants are going back to the playoffs this year? I just want to know. I just want to be clear on that.
What I'll say to that is it sounds crazy, but it's the NFL.
I understand.
Shit
that.
happens.
John, you've been watching the Knicks as long as me.
Raphael says the Haliburton. Could I say that? Took over MSG tonight. You guys did great tonight with Post Game Talk. Probably the only Knicks people live discussing the game. Thank you, Raphael, for checking in. We're literally doing our best, and we're driving our producers crazy because we're still going well after midnight. We all got to get home, so we're gonna wrap this up.
Is this the latest you guys have been here?
Yes,
we have.
Yes, and because there's never been an 8 o'clock start, and then we've had overtime. So think about that. And then chosen and loving it says nightmare game, but Knicks in 6.
Yes, and
that's the energy right there.
There we go.
Chosen
and loving. We love it. Chosen and loving has been before with us for some.
Thank you everybody for joining. Sincerely, even you, size 9, even though you be coming at our necks, we appreciate it.
I don't. If somebody comes to next, and listen, John,
probably not watching anymore.
John could have tuned out. John did not tune out, so I appreciate John.
Because John's a real one. He doesn't get mad. Away.
John had a fun discussion, and John said yes this year. He thinks the Giants can make the playoffs. I don't think that's that crazy. Who's your football team?
Giants.
Your Giants. Do you think they make playoffs this year?
That's a no. We're both ex-Jet fans.
Mill, whenever you
Well,
hesitate on
you're-
something, that's a no.
I think deep down, I know that it's like I'm not confident in it.
That's
but,
fine.
But you're right. It's NFL. Anything can happen.
Yeah,
Anything can happen in
the
NFL.
NFL's so weird, man.
No, it got. This is the second 8 o'clock start we had because we did have an 8 o'clock start for Game 6. I forgot about that, but that game did not go as long. And this is
That was over early.
That was over early, and that's probably why. Want to thank everybody for watching. We have to thank you, Mel, for joining us and rocking
Thank you
with
guys for having me. Of
Absolutely.
course.
Just because you were 0-1 does not mean that you cannot come back.
I don't know.
You can gladly come back, but you already been a guest on New York Out Game, so you're gonna come back. This was gonna happen. You've been a guest
I think
on New York Out Game.
we talked too prematurely. Like that was insane. The fact that I was saying, "Oh, I'm already 1-0 here," and then
Oh, you messed up the
You
valve.
didn't, it's not your fault.
it just got
It's
reversed.
not your fault. Aaron Neesmith wasn't, going crazy against, you defending. So it's fine.
Yeah.
What possessed that man?
I don't know. Everybody, thank you again for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We will be back on Friday night for Game 2. Myself, Bryan, Fonseca, and we have joining us will be Hector Beauchamp of Uptown Sports TV.
Yes.
He will be joining us for Game 2. Big Knicks fan representing the Bronx. Is he up first, Bronx? No, Kavitha was for the Bronx. So that's right.
But another Puerto Rican. We've had multiple.
We have.
Al, and I'm forgetting. I feel like there was another.
You know what?
Grady. Partially.
You know what I noticed? Yes, I did see that Yankee walk-off, Nikolai. Thank you. Who had to mention that. You are the first, I believe.
Guyanese.
Well, yes, definitely first Guyanese. Yes, I was going to say fellow West Indian. Also Gerard also from Trinidad. So we had that. So yeah, some Caribbean connections here.
Yeah.
Which is always good.
Also Queens.
Some Queens connections too. John said Knicks in 6, orange and blue skies. I'm still rocking with Knicks in 6. Not losing the faith.
They better win Game 2.
They have to win Game 2. But we will do that.
I wouldn't worry that much yet, just because. Look, they blew it, but closing statement will be look, they're still a really good road team, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. And I kind of expect this at this point for this to be 2-2 after 4. So we'll see. But we'll see.
I think that a lot of Knicks fans will sign for that.
Who knows? We've already got more surprises in Game 1 than we might have anticipated this soon in the series.
Yeah, I'm sure they've already clipped our reaction to the Haliburton.
It's out.
And
Oh
I'm sure
my
it's out
God.
there.
I reposted it already.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's out there. Our disappointment is all out there, Mill. Mill, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Greatly
I know
appreciate you.
we lost, but I enjoyed being here with you guys.
Oh no, we'll definitely have you back. So Knicks lose a tough one, 138-135 in overtime to the Pacers. Now down 0-1, still 4 wins away from the NBA Finals. We'll see if they can get that first step towards winning the Eastern Conference Finals on Friday. I'm Dexter Henry. That is Bryan Fonseca, the Great Mill Media. Please check her out on social media. She does such a great job with all the Knicks content, and we hope that she does well on her final tomorrow and does not blame the Knicks. Blame the Knicks.
I will blame the Knicks, if anything.
If anything there. We will see everybody on Friday, 8 p.m. tip. Peace, everybody.